Hey, my name is Andrew Eccles, and this is my special occasion speech for Public Speaking 151. I chose to do a eulogy for my last speech of the semester. It's about a friend that I grew up around and spent some time with, and also got to work with for quite a few years. I'm a believer that everything happens for a reason, and certain people come into our lives for a reason to help guide us or shape us into what we've become today and in the future. One of these people for me would be Steve Blann. This is kind of one of my biggest favorite thoughts of Steve. Kind of a good story of him. I met Steve back when I was in high school and spent quite a few years over at his place hanging out with the family. His son was a good friend of mine, riding four-wheelers, hanging out, having dinner. Just getting to know him and the family. I knew throughout high school that I didn't want to do anything like an 8 to 5 Monday through Friday after I graduated. I just would be bored out of my mind. I just wouldn't be happy doing that. So I took some classes after high school, and one of my favorite classes was philosophy. The professor in that class, all he spoke about that semester was the meaning of life and doing something that had a lot of fulfillment, throughout your life, that you do something that has a meaning to it at the end of the day. The problem with me was I just didn't know what I wanted to do after high school. I just couldn't put my finger on one thing. So seemed like the more I hung out with Steve and Jake, Steve kind of saw that I was kind of in the dumps and kind of depressed for a semester. I had no idea what I wanted to do, but I just didn't want to do something normal. And then one night Steve pulled me aside and told me that Jake was going to try out to be a volunteer and that he thought it'd be a good idea for me to do the same. So, Jake and I tried out in the fire department, and we finally got accepted and we're volunteers, and a year later both him and I got hired. And fortunately, I got to work for Steve for a few years. I think everybody kind of saw the stubborn and ornery side of Steve, but he was a lot different on his days off. He was a real caring man. He was involved in his church, involved in some charity bike rides that he would come around and try to raise money for, MS every year. Just a great guy, and he kind of helped me kind of move my way along in life and find something that I really like to do. I mean, the fire department's great. It's something different every day. It's rewarding at the end of the day when we get to help people, and it's just like my philosophy professor talked about that semester, was to just do something that has a meaning, and you go home at the end of the day and feel like you actually accomplished something rather than sit behind a cubicle every day. So I think some of the biggest things I miss about Steve is just getting to see him around the station every day. He's helped me out with some problems with the fire department before. He's pulled me aside and we've had some good talks. Mostly just miss his laugh, and so I'm pretty thankful that I got to work for him, got to have him in my life, and so I'm pretty fortunate for that. But in conclusion, that's my eulogy speech. I chose to pick Steve Blann, a guy I grew up with for a little while and got to spend some years with, and then got to work with for a few years before he passed away shortly after his retirement. So hopefully you like my speech, and that's that.